Hey everybody, and welcome back to another Movies with G-Rose. I just got back from a showing of A Ghost Story, and I'm going to talk about it a little bit. Not really impressed, gotta say. Drove 40 minutes just to get to a theater that would show it, and yeah, I'm going to talk a little bit about things I did like and things I didn't like. Right off the bat, I'm just going to tell you this is going to be full of spoilers, so if you plan on seeing the movie, might as well not watch this video. But yeah, I'm going to jump right into it. Let me just start off by saying this movie was not spooky at all. No, I'm just kidding. I knew it wasn't supposed to be a scary movie. I went into the movie thinking it was going to be about a relationship. I thought it was going to be about revisiting moments in that relationship. Turns out this movie is more about the passage of time and how fucking boring the passage of time can really be. The beginning of the movie has a couple scenes that just were so long. There was a scene near the beginning where the main two characters are in bed together and they're kissing, and it lasts at least 5 or 6 minutes of them literally just cuddling. Then there's another scene after the man dies where she eats a bunch of pie. That takes about another 7 minutes. Literally just her sitting there eating pie. Can't make this shit up. In all seriousness, I wouldn't have been too upset with how slow this movie was if they at least built the relationship a little bit better. You really get to see them together for not very long, and even the death is pretty unsubstantial. I feel like this is one of those movies where the director had a lot of his own ideas that he wanted to portray into the movie, and yet he doesn't really do a great job of explaining or expressing those ideas. I feel like he set up some really good things. The ghost with the sheet, it's a good idea. The home filming style aspect ratio was a great idea. And the general premise of the movie isn't too bad. You know, a ghost of a man kind of watching over things. And yet for the moments that should be emotional, they just weren't. I'm not sure if that was the director's purpose, but if it was, it doesn't feel quite right. I feel like this movie was very, very slow. And I feel like it was pretty pretentious. I think the movie relies too much on the audience portraying their own ideas and thoughts into what they think the movie should be about. And of course you can say that any of these ideas is the director's intention. I'm making air quotes. But overall, I don't think it was executed very well. Throughout the whole movie, I was trying to figure out what the purpose of it was. I was sitting there in the theater thinking, do I just not get it? Is there something here deeper that I just am not understanding? But I feel like there's a reason that I haven't really heard anything about this movie since it's come out. I think it's just not a very good movie. It was only an hour and a half long, and yet I found myself checking my phone repeatedly, which is never a good sign for any movie. I will say the one thing that this movie did exceptionally well was the editing. It does a very good job of showing the passage of time quickly flowing as the ghost is standing in one spot. He'll turn his attention from one room to the next, and the season will change. Things happen very quickly. It's almost as if the ghost is experiencing time much, much faster than humans would. And I thought it was very cool. There were some really interesting shots. There was one scene in particular in the movie that I actually really, really enjoyed. It's a scene where it shows the main woman listening to a song that her husband made. And she puts the headphones on, and it's a great soundtrack. It's a great song. And as she's listening to it, it's cutting between her listening to the song for the first time with her husband, and after he died, her lying down on the floor with some earbuds on. It was a really cool contrast because the first time she's listening, she has over-ear headphones on, the audio very, very clear and loud. And then when they switch over to her lying down, it's very muffled. You can tell she's wearing just Apple earbuds, it looks like. And she's literally lying on the floor, obviously thinking about this previous moment. And then she reaches her hand out, and you just get a glimpse of the bottom of the sheet of the ghost, obviously watching her, experience this. It was a great scene, and in my opinion, the best of the movie. I thought the scenes where he was literally haunting the house were a little weird. There's a scene where the ghost literally rips a bunch of, plates out of a cabinet and throws them around. I guess it's trying to show that, this is where ghosts come from. They're just kind of misguided or whatever. But at the same time, they only focus on that theme for about a second. So I feel like it doesn't really match the rest of the movie. This idea that he haunts the house for a couple scenes and then that's kind of it. I don't know. I feel like they just didn't focus on it enough for it to be an important scene in the movie. So it felt just kind of out of place in my opinion. And then we have the party scene. The movie does this cool thing where it shows multiple people moving into the house after his wife moved out. For whatever reason, he decided to stay in that same house the whole time. And there's this one scene where there's a big party going on, obviously these different residents, and there's this one guy with these overalls on, he's bald, and he gives this huge speech about how nothing in life lasts, and how it's all about making something that you think will last, and then, you know, it doesn't even matter because everything dies in the end. And it really bothered me because the whole time I'm thinking to myself, what's the point of this movie? If the movie is trying to express a theme to me, I should be able to figure it out. And this seems like the type of movie that you should have to figure out. And yet, 3/4 of the way through the movie, the director literally spoon feeds the theme of the movie to the audience. He literally describes the purpose of the entire movie. It just felt really cheap and not, you know, it wasn't earned. I will say from that point to the end of the movie was probably the best part. From then on out, we have some more scenes of the house getting torn down and turned into a skyscraper, and the ghost basically kills himself, jumps off the roof and becomes a mega ghost. No, I'm just kidding. He jumps off the roof and then basically gets teleported back in time, I guess, because then it cuts to him in a field with some pioneers, you know, some pilgrims, and they're setting up house, and you see this little girl put a little note under a rock. And it's alluding to a scene at the very beginning where the main woman in the movie, the wife, says that she used to do the same thing when she wanted to leave something behind in a place that she had gone to. And I thought it was cool how they kind of tied that up. It doesn't justify the movie, but it was a cool little scene. And then it hard cuts to these pilgrims dying. They got shot by some arrows, and then the bodies decay. And it shows this really cool editing of time passing very quickly as the bodies slowly disappear. And then it kind of wraps around, and you see this ghost watching his former self, his live self, move in with the wife. And you kind of get to see some of these moments that we saw at the beginning of the film from the perspective of the ghost. I thought this is what the majority of the film was going to be, him revisiting these moments. They sloppily explain why the two people were in an argument. The guy didn't want to leave because he felt he had history there. I don't know. I guess it ties into the whole passage of time theme of the movie. And then you see certain moments, like at the beginning of the film, the couple heard, you know, a noise out in the living room. And anyone watching the movie, at least when I was watching the movie, at the very beginning, I predicted that, of course, it was going to be the ghost of the guy that made these noises. I think it was, you know, could have been seen from a mile away. But then finally, the ghost watches all of this stuff happen. He finally gets the note out of the wall, you know, this little memento that he's been meaning to read, and then as soon as he reads it, he moves on. It was a good ending to the movie, but the payoff didn't justify leading up to that. Like I said, the movie was very, very slow, and most of it was just showing how boring life is. There wasn't a lot of dialogue, and it was just kind of people living, and that's just not an entertaining movie. It could have been pulled off correctly if there was a little bit more substance in the movie in regards to the relationship and why he was there, but again, the only time we get any substance is that one speech from the director explaining the whole purpose of the movie. It just felt very cheap to me. I also feel like it didn't really make sense that the ghost went back in time. Earlier in the movie, you see the ghost talking to a ghost next door, and it was actually pretty interesting to see how sad they made these ghosts look, even though they're not expressive in any way. But when I saw these scenes, I was thinking to myself, oh, maybe there's multiple ghosts at every location. Maybe this guy isn't the first ghost. But no, it turns out the ghost just went back in time, which doesn't really make any sense when you consider the whole theme of the movie is how nothing lasts and how moments are temporary. At least I think that's what the whole theme of the movie is supposed to be. And you get a little bit of ghost inception of him watching you get to watch the ghost watch himself as a ghost earlier in the movie, watching the girl leave the house. I don't know. It was dumb. I don't really think the movie was done very well, especially considering how many great things it had going for it, the aspect ratio, the sheet. Honestly, it just felt like kind of a disappointment. I know I'm talking a lot about the good parts of this movie, but what you have to realize is most of the actual movie watching experience is the audience watching a scene where virtually nothing is happening, and the movie isn't even trying to make you feel something. This whole movie feels devoid of emotion, and I feel like if you're going to talk about how short moments in life are, you should at least portray correctly that those moments still have emotion associated to them. No one reacts very well to anything in this movie. Even the main character barely reacts when her husband dies, so how is the audience supposed to care? I would give this movie a 5 out of 10. I went in with very low expectations and wanted to enjoy it, but in all honesty, I just felt like it was the longest hour and a half of my entire life. So yeah, thanks for watching Movies with G Rose. As always, I will leave the link to my Letterboxd in the description below so you can see some of my other movie ratings. Thank you for tuning in. I really do appreciate it. Check back next time for my next Movies with G Rose. See ya.